Welcome back to Tambay TV. This week we got a special guest from comics to bars. How do we get there? We'll find out soon. Tambay, Tambay, Tambay. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we got a special guest, a good friend of mine. Okay, just a little background before I introduce this spark young feller. Being that I used to work for Marl, and my job was going around clubs and checking out the promotions and whatnot. Few and far between do you meet a fellow geek in your midst, because it's such a weird place to be for, di ba, para na, uy, may kapwa geek ako dito sa loob ng bar. But this guy I met like 5-7 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, Howard Go.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for coming, brother. Long time, my man. How have we been?
I know, it's been pretty good. Thank you for inviting me to my first podcast.
Oh, welcome. Well, I am also pleased to pop your cherry today, bro.
Okay, nice way to put it.
Okay, to one. Okay. All right, Howard. Okay, bring us back to. This is a geek podcast. Okay, let's.
All right.
I'll be gentle on you, since it's your first time. It's we're talking about like superhero or comic book or manga influence in our lives, and how it helps you round you up as a person. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
So bring us back to the first time you knew that parang, okay, I'm a geek. I'm into this geek shit. Or did you growing up? Like, what was your first, sign? That,
I think the first couple of my first memories of comics or geek wise has always been the Voltus 5, and then those robot animation Japanese, because those are a big factor.
Growing up dito ka sa Pinas,
yeah, the Voltus 5, Voltron, Mazinger Z, all of that stuff. I mean, I watched every single one, and those were always like a big influence. And then,
were you a collector? Did you buy the toys?
My dad would have. I think I had a Voltus 5. I had the Voltron.
Yung bakal?
Yeah, the die-cast metal. But yeah, I had Macross, which
nice.
Unfortunately I was a very
yung bakal na Macross.
like the real die-cast metal where I used to hold the leg and just like swing it around like a hammer. So now it's all gone. Right? So because when you're young, you don't think about what the value is. You just kind of like, oh, this is awesome. I play with that. So my dad used to go to Japan a lot. So for business, so he would bring back toys.
Naku, so mura niya nakukuha.
Yeah, he would get a lot of cheap. So Voltus 5. I think my favorite is still the Skull Leader Macross.
I don't even know what one that is.
The Skull Leader is the one that has the white. Is it white? I forgot what the guy's name is in Macross, but his big brother in the first Macross. What was that? What's his name?
Macross was like 70s.
No, it's around the mid 80s, right?
Mid 80s.
But yeah, Skull Leader. I'm sure if you've seen Macross, you'll see it who it is. And then I got lucky also that I was in the beginning of the video game era.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I had Atari onwards. Right, nice. Every generation, at least one of them I had.
I'm a Famicom guy. Walk us through how the Atari world was like. Wow.
Atari was, I would say Atari was early 80s, right? So Atari, you had a big. I remember it's a joystick and a button. That's it.
I've never played.
That's it. It's a joystick and a button, and the only game you played was like Joust.
Pong.
Pong was too early, but they had Joust already. That Indiana Jones, right? Joust was like you ride an ostrich and you jump around and you hit people by jumping on them. And it's a big game. I mean, I'm sure if you look it up, it's a very big game.
Right. Nice.
And then so I did Famicom. I mean, family computer, not the Nintendo. It's the family computer.
Family computer.
But I actually had the family computer with the disk drive. right? So it was cheaper to buy the
Wait.
games. There's a
Super Famicom. I
no,
think
no,
NES na yun.
no. It was a
NES,
because in
right?
America it was NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System,
Yep.
but in Asia it was a family computer.
Yes.
But there was also a system called the disk drive system, which I had which I had.
Parang Game Genie or some shit.
It wasn't a Game Genie, but basically, the disk drive you didn't have to buy a cartridge, and you could just copy games, something like that. If I
A
remember
floppy,
correctly.
di ba? Nakasave
It was
sa floppy.
not a floppy drive. It was like the micro disc already. It wasn't the floppy disk already.
Shit, I don't remember
Right.
that.
But and you can only
it
buy
wasn't
that.
a cartridge though.
It wasn't a cartridge. You can only buy that in cash and carry. There was like one store that sold that.
Anong
That was it.
games meron nun?
Almost all the family computer games were there.
So it was like a little souped up.
It was a family computer on top, and then you had a drive system at the bottom. So you can just buy the drives, and it was I think it was much cheaper, right? And there was this one guy. I don't know where he is now. I hope he's still in business because that's the only place you could buy that was in cash and carry. And it was
I don't even remember this.
It was a big.
There was a myth
yeah.
that parang 1,000 games in that one whatever.
Well, that was like further on, but back then it was still one game, one cartridge, right?
Shit.
And then so I was a big family computer. Then you went to the Super Famicom, and then
Super Famicom, the equivalent.
that was
to
right
Super
out. Yeah,
NES,
that was like
diba?
the 16-bit, diba? Right? Was it 16-bit or 32-bit?
8 pa lang yun.
8-bit is family computer, and then it was
Diba
6.
4 lang? Oh yes.
Yeah, and then
16.
16-bit,
And then 32 for the Mega
and
Drive.
then after the
Mega
Super
Drive was-
Famicom, it was the PlayStation na, right?
Di pa, Mega Drive pa.
I
Sega.
skipped that. I didn't do any of the
Oh.
Sega. I didn't do any of the Neo Geo.
Dude, Sega had all the awesome
Right.
sports games. I remember my cousin had the Super NES.
Yeah.
Yun, pang Street Fighter, pang
Yeah.
What else
Super
was on
Famicom was
Mortal
it.
Kombat
Yeah,
was on
Mortal
it.
Kombat.
Pero yung Mortal Kombat na may blood code was
Yeah.
on Sega. That's why we got the...
So I skipped the whole
Sega.
Sega, and I'm glad because they're not in business anymore,
Yeah.
right? But I guess
But
if you had a
no.
Sega now, it's working. It's
But-
worth a lot of money.
Maybe,
Right.
but plus their games that just were so much better on the Sega. 'Cause
Yeah.
I had a Sega.
The Mega
yeah.
Drive, right?
The Mega Drive, wild, yun.
Sonic.
Sonic was
Yeah,
amazing.
Sonic.
That gave Mario a run for his money for the longest time in my book.
And then do you guys remember Neo Geo?
Hindi na.
Neo Geo and the
Nintendo.
Atari Jaguar were like the
Neo Geo
supposedly
was
the
made
it's another Japanese company. Is it Fatal Fury or Fury something? That was the fighting game that they had.
by... okay.
Right. So there were a lot of arcades in Japan that try to go into the console system. But only Nintendo and Sega lasted long. I mean, obviously Sega eventually moved out
No,
of it.
at sumali si Sony.
Yeah.
When
And then
Sony got
and
into
Sony
game,
then came in. So then you went
They
to
dropped the ball with Sony,
Yeah.
man. Sony kicked their
So-
ass with the PS1
yeah,
up to
the
now,
PS1, yeah. And then that was a very good
I
system.
think. That was a very
Right.
good system.
And it was an
That was our first taste of Silent Hill and Resident Evil.
I remember the thing with PlayStation though, right, was that
They
there was just so many games, and it was you had in the Philippines we had so many fake games, right?
Chamura,
It was very
$50
cheap,
a
so
game.
it was fake games were galore, and then I remember collecting so many games I never finished any of
Finished
them,
a lot.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
But
And
there were ones that you really fell in love with.
Yeah,
Like
of
Resident
course.
Evil, I fell in love with.
Resident Evil was very good. Resident Evil.
Which one did you play since the first?
I played almost all the Resident Evil main storylines except for the one that went to the Wii. Is it Resident Evil
Dark Side Chronicles.
3 or 4? I'm not sure.
Dark Side Chronicles.
Right? And
That
then
one went
the
to
one
Wii.
with Jake. Is it Jake? Leon.
Jake was-
Leon, right? And it was in some sort of Transylvania and stuff like that.
Was it?
Or Romania or whatever. Some
No,
Europe-
4 Neon. 4 Neon.
Four na ba yun?
Thinking
What
about
was 3?
No, 3 was okay, let's run it down one by one. Resident Evil 1.
Raccoons. That was in the museum. In
In
the
the Spencer Mansion.
yeah, and then it was
so
Raccoon City, the second one.
Raccoon City, the second one. That's Claire and Leon.
Yes,
Into
yes.
and then there's Claire A and Claire B. Tinapos mo ba?
Yes, both of them.
Diba? Because when you finish Claire A,
Yeah.
you get like Leon B or some shit like that. Now you get to
Yeah.
play his B side.
Yes,
And then
yeah.
if you finish both, you get the final monster. That
Yep,
was
yep.
amazing. That was actually my first. And then I had to
Oh.
backtrack to 1.
Yeah.
So that, and then 3 is the Last Escape, I think, with Jill Valentine and yung stars. Yung Nemesis.
Oh yeah, I think that one I skipped.
That was short. That was
Yeah, that
very
was short, yeah.
But it was good.
Yeah. Also, I skipped
And
that
then
one.
4 is Leon with
He was trying to save
Leon,
somebody.
yeah, Leon and Sherry
Yeah,
from
Sherry, yes. I watched that in YouTube. thanks to one guy I forgot, but I watched
Uh-huh.
that one. Like that was pretty good. That was actually pretty good. I wish they came out with that, and maybe I'll play that again if they have
They
like a
do.
remastered
They
version
released
for PlayStation 4.
for 3, I think.
Yeah, PlayStation 3 they did, but
They
I didn't
did.
play that because I was there's
But
you
you
know
can play PlayStation 3 on your 4, right?
no, that's not backward compatible anymore. I think.
Really?
I don't think the
Oh,
4 is backward compatible anymore.
that sucks. Maybe they will, but it's one of the better
Yeah,
ones.
there's just again, as you get older, you have less time, so you gotta pick games. Back then, when you're young, you're like I'll play, right? And I remember when I played, games. Sometimes you can buy walkthroughs, like physical booklets of walkthroughs. Dino
Game Pro,
Crisis, Game Pro. So I read all those magazines, right? And so now we are in the PlayStation 4, Xbox One
era.
generation.
How about comics? Were you ever into comics?
Um,
Or more manga? I remember you're more.
like we
manga.
were talking about it earlier, I like superheroes, major ones, but I think I was a more of a manga fan. But I will have give props to my Japanese classmate in school.
How
because-
old were you when you
Manga
studied?
was probably starting seventh grade was what when I was 18 minus 4.
You studied it in Japan.
I started in ISM, so it's an American
Okay.
system. So we
Yeah.
had 8th grade. So maybe when I was 13 or 14 or
What was
12
it
to yeah.
Was it a manga book or the cartoon?
It was the manga. It was in Japanese and everything. So so my Japanese friend would read through it for me, and I read Dragon Ball, Dragon Quest, right?
Which one's Dragon Quest?
Oh, I forgot already, but it was a pretty good series too,
Uh-huh.
Dragon Quest. So
Dragon Quest.
I'm sure if you guys are manga fans, you would remember Dragon Quest,
Uh-huh.
right? That was a pretty good
I'll look
series.
that up.
And then so I followed that pretty much.
Uh-huh.
But comic books I would follow only when I see my friends like in their houses and I would read their comics.
Uh-huh. But you never went to film bars and watched.
I never bought my own. I mean, I had a few, I think, right? Initially, like of course X-Men.
Oh, diba?
The
I was about to
X-Men,
ask
yeah,
that. That's where I
X-Men,
was going.
yeah.
Diba? Someone
Yeah,
at some point must have purchased like an
Yeah.
X book.
yeah. I think it's a big. Everybody was a big comic book fans.
Yeah. Speaking of
Right.
X-Men and comic books, let's segue. I told you to watch Logan.
Yes.
What was your take on
Oh, I loved it. I think Logan. Personally, I think us major fans of comic book movies.
Uh-huh.
It's comic book movies started pretty late. Around I think if the first X-Men came out in 2000,
2000.
2002 or 2000,
2000.
right? So it's kind of
17 years,
yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty early on. So now we're all mature, so we kind of relate to the maturity of the comic books.
Yeah.
So it took them a long time to do something similar especially for Marvel, right? Because I think DC tried to do a little bit more of the heavy stuff, but
We're talking about circa when? Like now?
like in the last couple, like they did what is that? DC did a more.
BVS.
Well, they did Batman,
Yeah.
the Dark Knight series, and then they did one with when was that? That was a dark film also. Oh my god, what was that film of DC?
DC.
DC did some dark films also, right? But Marvel stuck to like the comic book series, and if you look at the X-Men, because it was stuck with, like with a certain, and we won't name the
Just say Fox.
movies. They say okay, fine, it's Fox, right?
Fuck Fox.
Yeah, right. So they stuck to just rehashing
Yeah,
and
but
try
you know
to.
the history behind that, diba?
Yeah, I mean because Marvel they needed the money.
Exactly.
They needed the money,
Exactly.
right?
Marvel needed the money.
Money. They need the money, so,
So,
they sold the
sold-
soul of X-Men, right? And kudos to Fox because they
Oh,
figured out
man.
this was the best guys. It was
No,
X-Men,
but I bet-
Spider-Man, and was it
No,
Fantastic Four?
Not even, but it's just Fantastic Four and X-Men. Sony nila binenta si Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Okay, yeah. Okay,
so,
fine.
Fuck, but
At least
still.
kudos to Sony for participating in the Marvel universe.
You're right. Me too.
Yeah.
I really hope that somewhere down the line, but with the success of a Logan,
Yeah.
it becomes more impossible a little
Yeah,
bit. So,
because-
and with a Deadpool.
Yes.
Diba? Deadpool
yes.
was also good.
Yes. So going back to Logan, right? So I
Ah.
thought, like I was telling Pael, right? It's great that they finally did a proper Wolverine, not really a dark one, but like a proper Wolverine story, right? And then I
Uh-huh.
think it gives them for me, it gives them an insight. Look, we don't need to follow a timeline anymore, right? Because obviously,
Well, they started fucking with the timelines since first class.
yeah.
Anyway,
So
and then
well,
there's-
but with Logan, if you follow the comics, you just have to follow good stories in the comic series.
Yeah,
And you can do a lot with that. You don't need to follow a timeline. You just because if you follow a timeline, sometimes like, oh, I'm limited to what I can do because this already happened or this is what we want to happen. But with Logan, they kind of threw away the timeline. I mean, right? Obviously,
They did.
yeah, Professor X died in what?
Tapos
X,
may Caliban pa.
yeah, the
There's
Caliban.
there's a Caliban.
Caliban is different,
It's different.
right? So the timeline's different. So just follow good stories. I mean, that way, if you want to make money and make everybody happy, just follow good storylines.
Yeah.
You don't have to follow the proper timeline.
I love that they didn't follow the timeline, but my concern was, well, I love the way they did X-23.
Yes, that was pretty good. A very good story.
And
line.
coming from like a big X-23 purist fan, because I was a fan of her since
Yeah.
her appearance in X-Men Evolution. That was her first appearance. I was a big fan. They did that well. And medyo I find myself resisting on the fact that they made it a little bit of a drama, horror. Because it was an experimental genre. It didn't
Yeah.
feel like, the drama was
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah, it's drama's pretty
Fucking
heavy. It's
heavy.
pretty heavy.
And
Which
then
only, by the way, Hugh Jackson can pull out because he's a very, very good actor.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman is the
Yeah,
only
yeah,
person
yeah.
who can pull out.
Because he's a fucking theater actor.
Yeah, very
Diba?
good actor.
Tapos, syempre with Sir Patrick Stewart.
Was also
Great.
their actor, right?
Hayop
They
lang.
really this brought out the best in their acting skills, I think.
But this is my question to everyone. Hindi ka ba akulangan when it came to like the villain? I mean, X-24, a clone of him.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, it was kind of a weak ass villain,
It
but
was a weak ass fucking
yeah,
villain.
he fought his old self,
Right?
and he
Kasi-
fought the guy from Narcos, who was
Yeah.
beaten up by little kids.
Exactly.
Right. Sorry, did I spoil anything for you guys?
Alam na nila. By now, if you haven't,
If you haven't watched it, you're
we've
sorry.
already, by this point in time, we've already done a spoilers review. So if you haven't seen it,
Yeah.
what the fuck you
Yeah.
listen to this podcast for if you haven't seen it? Cheers, bro.
Cheers. By the way, this is brought to you by Jack Daniels, right?
Our sponsor.
Yeah, the House
Yeah.
of Jack.
This is what we drink. We call this iced tea when we do the podcast. We got iced tea on board.
Speaking of that,
Some more game.
yeah, please.
So okay, going back, we're already in your 8th grade. You're into macros and you're into
Manga.
Manga.
So I went from a Dragon Ball and Dragon Quest. There's a couple more. I didn't get into that. What is that? I did Samurai. I watched Samurai
Samurai
X
X.
a few. There was another one, the Yu Yu something, which I didn't really get into. I always went back to the robots. I just love the robots, and especially Gundam. Right?
Ayun,
Yeah,
before
I'm a
you get
big-
into
yeah.
Gundam, did you know na may reboot ang Voltron?
Yes, and
Have you seen it?
I watched the first season.
Wasn't it fucking good? You don't look so impressed.
I
Really?
honestly,
Too kidding?
it's too kiddie for me,
Ah,
right?
I love it.
But I guess because as you're older, you kind of want, you have your idea of what you watched when you were a kid, right? And as you get older,
Yeah.
some people want to go back. It's like, oh, I want to see the old nostalgic feeling I felt when I watched it. But me, I kind of wanted to evolve with me, right?
Me too. Don't
right?
you feel that the series was evolved?
I don't know. I mean, it was kind of honestly, I wanted to like it,
Okay.
but the more I watched, it's like, okay, my niece can watch this now, right? But
Yeah.
I can't watch
They
it,
don't the down.
right? And then I play with
have to
and then I play with Voltron.
What's your take on Pidge being a girl? I kind of like that one.
I like that. I mean, I think that's a
I
good
like
take
that.
on
That
it,
was a
right?
good take
Good take on
because,
that.
diba,
right?
watching
Yeah.
it, you didn't really
Yeah.
fucking know. Is she a girl? Is she a guy?
But the
I like
Japanese
the whole-
love doing that, by the way.
Yeah.
They love the ambiguous looking anime character. Is it a girl or a boy?
Ranma shit.
Yeah, Ranma. It's a weird thing because Japan being a closed culture, they like that stuff. Right.
Exactly.
But it's nice seeing the old Voltron. But yeah,
Have you rewatched the old Voltron?
no, I haven't seen it for a long time. Right.
Ah.
I was looking forward
It
to
must
this.
feel campy. I'm pretty sure it will feel like
Yeah.
campy. Form,
Yeah.
feet, and arms and legs. There you go.
Right. But you know what? I would want to see again the Daimos.
Oh, that's
The
so
Erica
overdue.
Richard? Right, Erica, Richard.
I just heard. I'm not a big Diamos fan. A lot of my friends are.
Yeah.
And correct me if they packaged it wrong for me. They're like, Daimos Dao is the love story for robots. Is that
Yes,
true?
it
Really?
is more of a love story.
And you said that emphatically too.
It is a love story.
What's the story of Daimos? to us, me included, who are not in the know
I don't remember
or
too
retarded enough not to
much,
know?
but I think it's an alien girl,
Okay.
right?
And a human guy.
A human guy, and like
Where does the robot fit
it's a bit like Romeo and Juliet, and the robots defending the world.
Ah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been drinking, by the way. But I will research this when I get home. But I think it's something like that. That's
Okay,
why
okay.
it was like a sort of a forbidden love.
Right.
Right.
And research. That's what everyone's saying. They're like,
Yeah.
it's a love story. Ang tawag nila is mushy.
It's very
ng mga
mushy,
robot.
mushy,
Really?
right. But if
So-
you want, if you want serious tones, well, the early Robotech Macross was serious, and
Yeah, I heard.
and
I watched 2 or 3. It felt dated to
yeah,
me.
and
Kind
then
of
Gundam.
stuff.
Yeah, those two are meant,
Gundam.
and always those two will cover the seriousness, even
You're
when
a
they
big Gundam head. That's
Yeah.
we were okay. A little backstory. Was it last week we were?
last
had a
2
drink?
weeks ago.
No, was it 2 weeks ago already? 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We had a drink at Craft.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to how you from a guy who loves anime to
Yeah.
being the owner of Craft. We'll get to that. But then let's talk about Gundam because I remember you schooled my ass because I'm a surface lover of Gundam. I'm a collector. I love
Yes.
collecting toys and Gundam growing up was one of the things that I just
It's a big toy.
Yeah.
It's a big toy industry for
ikaw
Gundam.
naman, you're more of like you love the story and the themes of Gundam.
Yes.
So explain to us in like a nutshell what's so amazing about Gundam. I watched some of it,
Yes.
like Endless Waltz I've seen. But everything else, what's the story behind
Gundam in itself, right? There are, if you look at the universal timeline, universal history timeline, or whatever timeline,
it? Uh-huh.
right, it has always been about two different kinds of human philosophy, right? I
So
say
ang magkalaban, human versus human.
yes, it's always about human versus human, but
No
it's
aliens in between.
right. There's no aliens, but they always talk about, let's say, humans versus space noids, right?
These are the Zakus and
That's,
whatnot.
yeah, because the story of Gundam is about the humans in Earth leaving because we've destroyed Earth, and then these outer territories in the moon or in those big giant cities, right?
Where?
Wanting
Giant cities like
um,
in space.
in space, wanting independence from Earth because these guys were
So they're not based on alien planets.
they're not based on alien planets, and it has a lot of connection with the world, the way we see the world, because they've covered topics between discrimination, right?
Okay, so nakagaling discrimination.
Discrimination,
And
for
they're all
example,
human.
yeah, but because the space noids develop certain new skills, right? They evolve,
Okay.
right? And then the way they look at the world is, you're holding us back,
Uh-huh.
right? And then so the Earth fights back because you're supposed to be our slaves. You're supposed to be
Well, when you say these are people who are living in space.
in space, right? So
They're
there's
like the higher race now.
well, they're not the higher race, but initially they were looked upon as you guys are you guys are immigrants to a new world, and you guys follow the Earth. But eventually they have their own, they have their own countries. They have their own culture, and they have their own.
Wait, is there color in Gundam? Is there black?
Well, there's exactly they don't it's they're all multicolored, but they always differentiate between space noids or
Earth
humanoids,
Humanoid.
or they have one, I forgot, for if you watch I think Gundam Seed, they were I forgot the term, right? But
Okay,
they have
so
a
that's
different
cool.
term for people who are like they have they have a better use of their brains, so they can control the Gundams very well. So that scares the humans.
What
Right.
they can control because they're more.
They have like a
Heightened.
connection. Yeah, they have a heightened heightened use of their brain power, something like that.
Nice.
Right, because of the space. So they have like they
Well,
can.
how do the robots figure in? Yun ang panggera nila.
Yeah, and that's how the robots are extension of their their bodies,
Mhm.
right? And then so obviously the spacers not supposed to be able to compete with the humans, but they have this guy who becomes super powered or something in terms of their brains, or they have a robot they
What's
can
the
beat
name of the
everything.
big bad guy?
Actually, here's the thing with Gundam: there are no bad guys.
What?
There are no bad guys. There are competing philosophies on how the world should or the universe should be, right? Because even the bad guys say or the original Gundam,
Okay.
Again,
Which is
with the Universal Century, right?
that's what they look. That's what So
Okay,
those
so
of you
there
who
is
want to get into it.
the humans versus the Human Federation versus the space, right? The I forgot. It starts with
Okay,
a Z,
to
right?
those of you collecting this shit,
You can correct us later on.
no, but listen, because I'm sure a lot of them collected like me for the look. this
Yeah.
is this is the story
Right.
behind your toys.
So,
So go
for
on.
example, the big bad guy in the first series is the Shar Azdabal, right? But if
Uh-huh.
you watch the story, he wasn't a bad guy per se. He was his father and mother were royalty to the Space Noids, right? And then so they were.
But he was born on Earth. Is that
He was
how it
born.
is?
I think he was born in space. He was born in space.
How does he end up on Earth?
He doesn't end up on Earth. He basically takes up the mantle to lead, the independence of the space movement, right? And they had to attack certain colonies to be to separate themselves. And when
Anong gamit yung Gundam?
he has he's called the Red Comet. So he's got a nice. He doesn't ride the gun. He actually doesn't use a Gundam, right? Because
Okay.
Gundam itself can mean certain things, but it's usually meant for the main robot. But his robot is pretty good. He's called the Red Comet, and
I love that, huh?
yeah his robot is pretty cool also. You know, the Red Comet.
The Red Comet.
The Red
Go
Comet.
on, sige.
Right? So he initially fights the protagonist. The protagonist doesn't know it in the beginning. He's just like trying to defend himself because in every story in Gundam, it's just some normal kid who happens to be able to control a famous robot. A
Is
Gundam.
that one?
Yes, right.
Boom, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, I've seen this. Ito yung Gundam na sasakyan pa sa
Yeah,
loob.
this
diba?
guy, he's Shar Aznable, right?
This guy.
Yeah. So if you watch Gundam, the Gundam Origins. They actually just recently released his story of his actual origin, so it completes the whole arc.
So he's like an anti-hero.
Yeah, he's not a bad guy, but he's just shaped by the way he grew up, right? And he just wants, certain things for himself,
Uh-huh.
right? Certain things for his people, for his sister, for his dad was a famous politician.
Who's your favorite? What? Not character. Let's get a bit more superficial. Suit. Which mobile suit is your favorite?
I it used to be the F91,
The F91.
right? But now it's the one in Gundam 00.
So see, Double O Riser. Siya ba yun?
That's
Siya ba
pretty
yun?
recent. That's a pretty recent one, and that's not in the Universal Century because the Universal Century is the main line, the main timeline, and they try to fit in all the Gundams there, right? And they haven't
Okay.
done a major series for that, but what they've been doing is trying to fill the stories in between, and there's a lot of stories that they're trying to fill in between because it's a
Where does Endless Waltz fall into?
that's in
all
the
this?
Universal Century, I think.
Which is like the general.
The
Kumbaga,
yeah.
if you were to communicate that in Marvel terms, that would be like the main universe.
That's the main universe, right?
Okay.
But the Gundam Seed, Gundam 00, and now you have the Gundam Iron Blood. That's all in a different kind of timeline, century, alternate universe,
Nice.
right? So
Shit. So I asked you this 2 weeks ago. Why, with your such a huge love for Gundam, why haven't you bought yourself like a toy of Gundam?
because I think I tried to build stuff and I have not been very successful, and it does not do any justice for my love of Gundam.
Ah, I get
Right?
it.
I mean, I bought I just told you my Macross. I mean, I just used to use it as
But
a
you're
hammer.
older now.
Right?
You're
It's older now, but you gotta put time to build that properly.
That's true.
But somebody told me a famous.
That'd be like your downtime, like while you're
Yeah.
watching.
Well, my downtime is playing video games, I suppose.
Sabagay,
Right?
I guess.
Right. So, but yeah, I mean, I think I did collect a Gundam before, but I just never finished it
Sayang.
in the old house, and it's probably gone now.
Uh-huh.
But somebody told me even if you make Gundam, it's not a collector's item. You have to buy certain kind of
Yeah,
Gundams.
you told me
The
about that.
die-cast metal with a certain number, and these are the ones that are pretty much built.
Yeah. told
But
me about
these
that.
are really collector items, right?
Mhm.
These are the ones that you're supposed to frame and put on your shelf. But if you're a great Gundam maker, then it makes it doesn't make a difference, right? But it just takes time and effort, right?
So okay, let's go back to your Macross throwing self as a kid. So growing up, went to ISE, you had friends who were into like
Well,
Japanese.
my
friends
Japanese
specific.
friends, yeah, they introduced me to a
into
lot of the
anime.
manga, anime, and it just kind of carried on and then and now
Was
we
there a time when it just stopped and you got interested in other stuff like chicks and shit?
obviously,
Meron, di ba?
right.
So that
Geek girls weren't big back then, by the way. But
right, exactly.
right,
That's what I
geek
wanna
girls
fucking
were
talk
not big
about.
back then, but now geek girls are like
No, but it was
there.
a beginning because it me I don't know about because you're how much old, like a year or two older than me.
Yes,
So
but let's not count numbers.
it will be impolite to ask you your age. You're not chick, fuck that. Anyway, but we were at the cusp.
Yeah,
Where-
we were the beginning of
Like
the geek
geek-
industry.
geekdom, like let's call it pop culture. Like, nowadays, I find myself referring to it as pop culture. Nah, not as cool. Chicks now are 10 times cooler than
Much
they were
cooler.
back then, right?
So hit us up if you're a cool Gundam looking chick because back then,
Right? It was few and fucking far
I-
between.
not to judge you, but
Ngayon,
you
normal
guys
yun.
watched the wrong TV shows and movies, right? But now it's different.
Pero, diba, agree with me on that. Cusp. We were at the cusp of
Yes.
chicks being fucking cool. Because
Well, they
some
were
of
cool
the-
back then, but they just didn't like.
A lot of
Or
geek
they were,
stuff.
at least maybe they hit it. They hit it.
A little bit.
They
A
hit
little
it,
bit.
yeah, they hit it, they
Any
hit it.
girl of around our age or a little bit younger would know the Ninja Turtles. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
there's like an established love
Yeah.
for them and yeah. Voltron content because it was just
Yeah.
it was the only thing on TV back in the day, man. But it wasn't cool watching
It
it,
wasn't
growing
cool.
up.
Yeah.
So how did that? What did you end up taking up in college?
I was an econ major,
Call
Right. and I mean, it has nothing to do with.
still the creative side.
Well, it's kind
no?
of geeky. Also, it's kind of to do with numbers and statistics, I guess,
Yeah.
right? But
And call don't you have like marketing classes and advertising?
no, we
shit?
didn't do any of that. I mean, for economics, it was numbers, statistics,
Statistics.
right? Which is also very helpful, right?
You're Chinese. You're good at that, right?
Well,
Kinda.
yeah, you just gotta practice. I think anything in life, you just have to practice. I mean, you're an artist. I mean, you put 10,000 hours or more
Oh
in
fuck
drawing.
yeah, I believe in that.
Right, so
Did you
that's-
name Malcolm something? What the fuck is his
Malcolm Gladwell,
There you go,
Yeah.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah, so-
Thank you. About 10,000. I believe in
10,000
that. I put
hours.
it
You
more
gotta
than-
if anything you want to be good at, you gotta put a lot of hours, right?
Yep, yep.
And
that's the
not only
problem.
hours, it's focused hours, and that's hard,
Yep, yep. That's
right?
hard.
That's hard, and especially if you're distracted a lot. Right?
And nothing in life comes fucking easy, Brian. You know that.
Yeah.
Anything that's worth the hardship is fucking worth it, Brian.
Obviously, yeah,
So-
exactly.
How does an e-com guy end up owning a chain of restaurants and bars, bro? How does that come to be?
It's just it's a matter of opportunities.
You didn't
I-
pick up any.
Yeah, it's just a friend of mine offered us, hey, I got some property. I have a couple of restaurants. I think this property will be good for a bar. And then at that age
Uh-huh.
of ours, we were going out.
How
meeting-
old were you?
I was probably like my late 20s. So that was like prime time. You're going out a lot. And you start thinking, maybe if I own a bar, I will save money. Right? That actually, honest, that was my thing. I will save money, right?
Dude,
Obviously,
talking to a guy who also owned a bar.
in the
you
back
know,
of your head, you
that's-
think, yeah, maybe you will meet chicks. But and that eventually did happen,
Of
right?
course, of course. it's
So
worked
yeah,
out.
so that's how we moved towards that, industry, and now it's a primary industry for me. But I would love to do something geeky, right down the line.
Back then, let's go before what you want to do in the geekdom. Like you started, what, trading sa alak or just like was it the restaurant first or the bar first?
It
Or
was
it
a
at
bar.
the same
It was a
time?
bar for me first because that
Which
was
Amber de Baton?
yeah the
Amber,
Amber. Yeah,
dude,
it was
classic.
it was more of a lounge / club.
I love that place.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of.
We all have good
backstory.
memories of that, yeah.
Fuck yeah,
Good
Pounded
memories.
motherfucker, yeah.
Good memories.
Oh fuck yeah! I will check one right now. So I was pursuing art, right, for like the longest time. It was art for me has always been an on again, off again relationship. So, but then now I'm in it for the longer haul. But anyway, going back. But then I took this job with Philip Morris because it was at night, and I had my mornings to myself, which I
Mhm.
could do my art and shit.
Mhm.
So, my first event was in Amber,
From Marlboro.
from Marlboro.
Yeah.
That was remember the time when we had the fucking bus.
Oh, that was the Optimus Prime bus.
Yes, that fucking
That
bus.
that was actually very, very cool.
That was
That
very
cool.
fucking
That
cool.
was cool.
Up to now, I don't think anything.
I
Like the
don't-
Alax have never topped it. Maybe Cuervo with their band and
Yeah,
the band
yeah.
setup and shit. Oops, sorry, Gabe. Jack pa rin. So,
That's what we're drinking.
yeah, that's what we're drinking. Don't worry, Gabe. We got you in our minds and in our hearts, pare. So, but that was, how new was Amber at that time?
2000, that was pretty new, right? I
Mhm.
think that was in 2009, right?
Yeah.
Early,
Bagong bukas, if I'm not
yeah, we
mistaken.
opened in July, and then that was probably like in October,
August.
November, or August. Yeah, it was pretty
I remember,
new.
because that was my first month, man.
And I remember they didn't know how to even move the truck inside the parking lot.
Because
Bec-
it was fucking huge.
It was huge. It was a Transformer Optimus
Right?
Prime.
Of the those who don't know, it was this
It
bus,
was
like a
the
double decker.
best.
The best. It was a double decker bus with fucking pimped out, kulo na stripper pole sa gitna.
And a
diba?
jacuzzi. If that a jacuzzi,
That would have been
right?
fucking and
Go Philip Morris.
Transformers kasi it would open up like fucking we had a pet name for it which was Optimus Prime. And
It
I
was
was like,
awesome.
this is my first time in this fucking rockstar industry with this fucking company with a big goddamn budget to throw on
Yeah, that was
fun
pretty awesome.
and lavishness. Bro, we had so much fun times with fucking. That's when we got close. That's when
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, where's that one? He's
That
one
was
of the
fun.
tribe.
Yeah,
you
that
know?
was pretty
I
fun. That
knew.
was fun.
That was fun.
That was quite a while back.
So,
I don't think I've
pareho-
never been to another party with the Optimus Prime, because like you guys moved that to the province a lot. I think.
I did, yeah. Here in Manila, I think we only got to do it like twice.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember the other time. Not as cool as fucking Am. It was like
That was the heydays of.
That was a hate. That was our peak, both of us. So we
yeah,
shared that together.
That Philip
buddy.
Morris party scene. Right?
So that was your first attempt.
yeah.
Amber was your first with Jesse, if I
Yeah,
remember.
Jesse,
And
yeah,
Colin,
all of them,
the
yeah.
boys. Jesse, I knew growing up.
Oh, really?
Southridge boys.
Oh, okay, you guys were the same batch? No.
No, that he's a bachelor. We are older.
You
No.
can
This guy.
you can edit that later on.
He's too much of a spanking looking young man, pare. Tapos from there, I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, Amber, tapos sumugal kayo with...
With Craft, which is a rock bar.
yeah, with
we
Kat
had a
and Scarlett.
we had a wine lounge and we had a Japanese restaurant. Which
one
had a
was
beer
the
garden.
Japanese? I'm trying
Katsu.
Katsu, there you
Yeah.
go. Fucking best katsu don ever. Well, second best, sorry. But I loved your wings. Motherfucker,
Yeah,
those
good wings.
wings in Amber. Remember?
Yeah.
Always. The when I see you, bro.
I actually think that, you know, not to
Remember?
be me, I think Bugsy took part of our.
A little bit.
Yeah, but I would say Bugsy's now has the best chicken tenders. I would say
Yeah,
that.
or
They're good friends of mine, so
Yeah, Bug.
I will say that. Right?
heads up to Bug. But I love that guy. Nice guy.
Good
Is
guy,
he
good
here?
guy.
Is he here?
He's here. He's here. He's now a, big suit guy and grooming
Really?
for Philippe and Sons. That's
Oh,
his.
that's what. That's
Yeah,
his business now.
That's his business, right?
Nice. So tailoring.
Tailoring
malaki
and
expense.
male grooming.
Nice. Okay. So even like the man throws and the man stashes.
Yeah.
So that's his thing.
Yeah.
Cool. That's nice. That's nice to hear. So after that, but then what's this thing now with Amber being closed down and I
Well,
heard
we're
that
becoming
the
more.
Ayanas are
No, there's. I
Excuse
mean,
me, taking over.
I don't think they're closing us soon. I mean, because there's a
not
lot-
you, not you,
yeah.
but then like the club scene, they close a lot of your like pervaded.
It's
used to be
more
there,
of
it's
the
not-
a lot of the bars have moved of that group has moved to the other side to north
Uh-huh.
or uptown. But other than that, it's still business as usual. I mean, it's just you just have to adjust to the demographics and to the type of clientele you get there,
Mm.
which is what we've done. Which is we've survived for how many
Oh
years
fuck
already.
yeah, bro! And
Right.
like looking good. Craft is looking good. Craft, tell to those to retards who don't know, people who love music, you guys go to Craft. They got live acoustic and full band set up
Yes,
there.
okay. If you guys
We
love
played there.
If you
a
guys
lot of
like
times.
live
I love-
music,
yeah.
rock bands, indie bands,
Mhm.
good cover musics of 80s and 90s music, just come on down to Craft and BGC,
Uh-huh.
right? It's better live. That's our tagline. It's better live.
It's better live.
Right.
How is the in a week? Which one's like one of the days? Because I've also owned a bar and I know
If
there
you're
are
a-
dead days are dead days.
If you're an
but,
indie music lover, you should go on Mondays because
Mondays,
yeah,
really?
because that's the only time you're gonna list. Well, that's the time we allow a lot of the indie bands to play, right?
Uh-huh.
And indie bands, they're very creative people, right?
definitely.
So a lot of them also are geeks, which it turns out
Fuck.
pretty funny, right?
And then ngayon kasi geek is cool, bro. You know.
Geek is cool, but
walk around with a Star Wars shirt
I mean,
with a Star
even
Wars
athletes want to look like geeks, right? A lot of them wear fake glasses, which is kind of odd, right? I mean, props to my athlete, friends, but seriously, right? Like, if you were wearing glasses,
It's
you
my
would not
Clark
play
Kent.
sports.
It's my Clark Kent. Fuck that shit. But then hey, potato, man. Yeah, yeah. So no, nowadays, what's been keeping your geek alive? So geekdom for you is like an escape from where you are.
Obviously, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a fantasy for a lot of us.
Yeah.
It's a lot of. I still watch as much as possible, like animes. I
Aside
love.
from Gundam, what else are you into? Which ones are you into?
I Attack on Titan. I don't know if you.
Ooh, heard
That's
of
pretty
that.
good. That's pretty
Heard,
good.
I've seen that. People
But
have been telling me,
yeah.
but it's subbed. I can't watch sub. That's my problem because I'm drawing while I'm watching.
Oh
You
yeah.
see my
Well, no,
setup,
there's you can download the ones with that are like subtitles.
No, I know, but
Oh yeah, you have.
I need
There's
them
no.
dubbed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no dub yet. Yeah.
I need to
But that's a pretty dark anime as well.
I heard. I've seen
right?
the imagery.
Yeah, there's a dark
I've watched the
anime.
trailers.
There's
It's gonna be made into a movie.
yeah. There are two movies already in Japan.
Uh-huh.
Claymore before that, I like that.
Which one's Claymore?
It's pretty good too. It's about these women soldiers and they're fighting against demons, but they're also part demons because
Bro, ito, a little observation, and especially anime and manga movies.
Mhm.
Napansin mo ba na lahat sa kanila dapat may gratuitous shower scene? Think about it.
yeah, I
Think about it.
suppose.
Diba?
Well, the Japanese, right? And I think
Palaging meron.
the Japanese.
Lahat. I can name
Don't get me
all
wrong.
of them.
The Japanese got it
May-
right. I mean,
Palagi, I love it, and I love how sexy it is without being too. Some of it's vulgar, like remember Street Fighter 2, the
Yeah.
anime.
yeah.
There's Chun-Li taken with
Yeah.
we've seen Chun-Li
Yes,
fucking
yes.
nude, love it, jerked off to it as a kid, grown up. Pero di ba, bro,
Yeah, yeah.
palaging meron. I was watching Bayonetta, the anime recently, and it had another fucking shower. I'm like, I knew it. They just have to give that. Anyway, so what else?
Well, I think the Japanese themselves, right? They have, if not the largest sex industry in the world,
Mhm.
right? And it is they have a very
Creative way of
yeah. They need. That's how they,
They have sex chairs
release.
and
That's
shit.
how they release stress. I mean, if you look at statistics, they're one of the lowest birth rate country. They don't
Yeah,
based
so a lot
on
of the
certain
Japanese
surveys,
boys
they're
grab
not
the jerk
the,
off then
they're not the most proactive in terms of intercourse, but
because
they
they have all these machines.
they
and
have
shit,
they have
man.
those outlets already. But
Yeah.
it's kind of helped them.
I
down
wonder
the
what
line,
prostitution is in Japan.
It's
Baka
big.
mat-
It's
I'm
big.
sure.
It's big.
I'm
It's
sure.
not promoted, but
I
it's
haven't been, but I heard
it's
parang
big.
nakakatalog siya and shit.
yeah. It's a very well defined industry, but that's how they are in Japan, and there's not. That's the society, right?
Yeah.
It's in their history, right? And they accept that. So
Yeah.
that's why it
I
comes
love
out in
that.
their culture.
Yeah, and that's why I love the stories that come out of
Yeah.
it. It's
Yeah.
no holds barred. It's everyday reading for them. Manga to them is like newspapers. Diba?
It's their escape. I mean,
it's newspapers.
I would believe there's a correlation between some of the fantasies they have, not condoning it obviously with some of the scenes.
Pero
that were-
marami, di ba? They have
Yeah,
rape shit.
yeah, they have, but I
got
think it's-
Oritsukodoji
if
bullshit.
you gotta look at the numbers and you gotta look at the psychology. I don't know if any Western people have studied it, but I would say that it's kind of like kept their sexual violence down, right?
Really has it?
I
Sa
think
bagay,
so.
yeah,
I think
they're
so.
not
I mean,
engaging.
obviously there will always be cases like that,
I
but
saw this shit on
they have
YouTube.
they have some ways
They
to.
have virtual girlfriends and shit.
They do.
That is just, that was just so fucking sad.
But Japan is a very interesting country.
I know.
Very
Speaking, okay, segue.
But go there for food. Love the food.
I heard. My brother just got back like last year, and he's like, "Pare, tama na muna Hong Kong, Japan naman tayo." 'Cause I love Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Hot Toys is there, all
Yeah,
the toy
yeah.
shit is there. I love Hong Kong. Plus the weather, especially
Yeah.
in.
You gotta go to Japan. That's the motherland.
I know,
That's
I
the
heard.
motherland of Geek Central, I think.
How did it feel standing next to the fucking huge? Did you visit the huge?
Oh
fucking
yeah,
thing?
I'm glad I went there last year. I mean, because it's gone now.
What?
It's done.
Huh?
So if you didn't go, I'm sorry.
Are you sure?
It's done. It's
What?
I think a few days ago was the last day. But
What?
according to them,
You
they
just broke all my fucking. You shattered all my dreams.
but according to them, they took it down. It was very successful. It was the first the robot there was the first Gundam.
Three
Right.
stories high.
Yeah, it was pretty
Tama ba?
high.
Did you get to see it?
I got to see it. I have
Did
pictures
you
and
get to
everything.
touch it?
Yeah, well, I didn't have to touch it, but it was awesome, right? If you're a big Gundam fan, it's awesome.
Ah, yeah.
But don't worry, I think by the end of the year they're building a new Gundam,
Oh, that's fine. That's
which is
fine.
bigger. It's gonna be
Yeah.
Gundam Unicorn.
Ooh, my brother has a unicorn. Gabe
That's
has
gonna
a
be Gundam Unicorn,
The one with
so-
the lights.
Yeah, the light when it
Oh,
opens up.
shit, that
It opens up. Right.
Tapos-
So I hope that opens up and lights up, right? Because that'd be awesome. If they were able to do that, that's awesome.
Dapat lang.
But
Because
yeah,
this will turn its head already.
yeah, turn its
right?
heads
That's-
right. Yeah,
and then
but
there's like a light show every night.
yeah, and it's not easy to go to. I mean,
I heard.
to go if you go to Tokyo, right? It's you have to take a train
Mhm.
to get there, and it's a pretty long ride. I mean, I literally fell asleep
I heard.
going back because I was like,
Pilgrimage though,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
gonna
it's a
visit.
pilgrimage because it's Tokyo itself. It's quite big, right? It's a big city. It's a mega city.
Does it feel like Metropolis in some way?
It does because it helps because they're so connected with the subways, the trains, and
Transportation.
every municipality or whatever equivalent they have there has their own unique culture, a unique kind of like a place to eat and everything. And
Ah,
where
shit.
the Gundam is Odaiba, it's basically like a giant outlet mall area. There's a couple
From
of malls
Manila, gaano kalayo siya? Para
It's
lang-
far. It's from
Gaano
Manila,
kalayo?
right?
From Manila.
I would say it's like Laguna or something or farther.
I traveled there to see a gun.
But it's in train, so
15 minutes.
yeah, it's
30
about
minutes.
it's about 30, 40. It's about 40 minutes on train, so it's quite far.
Yeah, Laguna.
I think I don't remember if there might be faster trains, but the train I rode because of the stops, it took about 30 to 40 minutes.
Mhm.
And I remember going back and I fell asleep because I was so tired.
Okay lang.
I mean, it's a long day and you
yeah.
want to do all that stuff.
Who were you with when you went? Family?
I went with a family, but a lot of the
Sama's
geek.
hands?
No, he wasn't. But I
Ba't
went
di sumasama yung hype na yan?
because he's got a baby. That's
Baby,
why,
yeah.
right? Hi,
When
Helena.
were you in Japan? Shout out Hans, motherfucker, if you're listening. I miss you, bitch.
I was in Japan last year in the end of November, which is the best time to go to Japan.
I heard.
Believe
My
me.
brother was there. End November.
Yeah,
2nd.
you gotta go
Let me
there.
know.
Go there during when it's cold.
Cherry blossom, motherfucker.
And yeah, don't go there anytime because if you come from the Philippines, it's hot all the time.
Ah,
Right? So don't
masarap
go
yung
there.
lamig.
Yeah, masarap yung malamig.
Sarap yung naka 3 layers ka. Yeah, yun yung
Yeah,
masarap
yeah.
pag
And because it's
ka.
cold,
Yeah.
you can walk and you can eat and you won't really feel it.
Yeah, we were in Beijing. We were in Beijing.
That's cold. I used to live in Beijing.
Oh, how long were you in Beijing for?
2 years.
Studying?
Yeah, exile. I call it my
were
exile
you a bad
years.
boy? And then they
No,
had to
no,
fly
I,
off.
call, I call it my but I loved it in Beijing. It's
How old
Beijing
were you when you were in Beijing?
right after college, right?
Kaya tayo hindi masyadong... Because I was already close to Hans.
Yeah, no, because Hans went to Australia. I went to China.
Yeah, but then after college he was here.
Yeah,
Because he's
But-
my batch, right?
yeah.
I think he's my batch.
I think so.
Anyway, also moving from Japanese culture and their anime, and
Oh, and we stayed in Akihabara, which is a center for geeks and anime and
say that
manga.
again slower.
Akihabara.
Akihabara.
So if you're a big fan, go to Akihabara because that's the central. I mean, it's not really pretty. It's not pretty big. It's not that big, but literally every building there is anime culture,
oh shit.
computers,
I wet my
culture.
pants.
So if you're gonna go there, you have to go
Yeah.
to Akihabara,
I'm sure.
right?
I will.
Yeah, and everything is there. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like
I
what they
got
call
it.
otaku center.
But I'm crazy about the figure arts. This Harley right here.
Yeah.
That's figure arts. It's Japanese made out. I just want to see them. How fucking crazy are they to come up with that?
They love that stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a Gundam theme restaurant which I didn't get to go to, but I passed by it. There's a Final Fantasy, so all of it's over
Ooh,
there.
People are crazy about
All
that
of it's
too.
there, right? And they have Gundam themed food. I mean, anime themed food. Period. It's everywhere in Japan.
Yeah. Speaking of anime themes and fucking awesome anime shows, Ghost of the Shell. Let's go straight to the point.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
coming
pretty
up
good.
this
That's a
March.
pretty good.
And we were having this conversation about your feelings. Is that the right word to use? About the whitewashing in Hollywood. What's your opinion on that? With ScarJo playing the major. It's not. I'm not sure if it's Moto Kusanagi because
Yeah.
that's Japanese
Yes.
sound.
Yes.
So we don't know.
Well, here's the thing, right? I think if you
You're
watch
worried about
Japanese anime, they don't really have a racial bias
They don't.
because they
Thank you
do
for bringing that up.
they do put all kinds of colored hair people there,
Yeah.
but they all look Oriental. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, the big, well, they look
It's part of
anime
the
style,
drawing, yeah,
the big
it's part of the
eyes and
drawing.
everything. You know, the Japanese
Ang
eye.
masa-separate mo lang sa kanila is yung negro. Yung
Yes,
negro na
yes,
really
right.
have
Now,
thick lips and like big guys.
With Hollywood coming into like Japanese or
Property, yeah.
property or Oriental movies, right?
Specifically Ghost in the Shell, which
Ghost in
is
the Shell.
an amazing
Right.
anime.
I mean, I'm gonna reserve judgment, but yes, I think they should try to fill as many roles that are fit for Asians, right?
Which brings me to my question. Do you think, knowing that they don't put race and shit, and you've seen Ghost in the Shell,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah, of course.
So Ghost in the Shell, do you think it's quote unquote whitewashing to have ScarJo portray the major?
It's hard to say, right?
Kailangan pa natin panoorin eh.
Yeah, you have to watch it, right?
That's true,
But yeah,
that's
but
true.
like I said a while ago, you know, please do not troll me.
No,
Right? But I
Popular
just think
opinion.
that Hollywood
It's an opinion.
doesn't have a, you know, they're still, here's the ironic thing. They want the Asian population to watch Hollywood films. And
Yeah.
case in points, if you guys seen The Great Wall, I haven't seen it by the way because
Ah.
I refuse to watch it because Matt Damon does not save the Chinese race, by the way.
Is
But I like Matt Damon, right?
But
But
is that an issue though for you?
for me, it is an issue. And for you guys who watch Star Wars, I'm thinking,
I was gonna bring it there.
right, you know, Asian actor for the first time, thank you very much. But why, you know, why so late? Why so
Okay.
late?
I thought,
Why
I
so
thought you were gonna say gay, but thank you for not
But
saying
yeah, that one I will not say, but
Don't
that's
say that.
another thing,
Don't
you know.
say that. We try to be PC,
Yeah,
motherfuckers.
but they want to be politically correct, and but
Yeah.
we just, but they said because
No, but Shira, played by Donnie Yen, was an amazing character.
he was an amazing
It's
character,
cool.
but why kill him? Finally, we're happy, and they
Dude,
kill him.
they all died. I'd rather him die, diba? Oh,
Okay, he died a glorious death, but then when you go back to Rogue, what was the, you know, the new the last Jedi?
The Last Jedi.
Who's the next Asian actor there?
Wala pa, I'm sure may lalagay sila. You
I
know
hope
why?
so.
You know why? Because
But do you remember the Asian characters in what was the new, what was the
Which
latest Star Wars? What's the title?
Rogue One.
Rogue One. Who were the Asian actors there? Do you remember?
Yeah, Donnie Yen and
No. That before that, the one that follows the storyline, episode 7.
Force Awakens. Wala.
Yeah, no, there are Asian characters. There was I watched that, so I noticed that, and there was
I
that.
gotta know that by heart.
Okay,
Which
so
one?
who are the Asian characters there? There was one guy in the central
Yeah,
command
yeah,
station.
See, I
He
know.
he asked like a simple question and he was gone.
That's it.
Right?
The white hair.
And the bad guys who attack Han Solo in the ship. They're Asian.
Yeah. Do you know where they're from?
Yeah.
The raid. They're fucking Malaysian, but I love it.
Exactly, my boy.
Pero still.
Not saying that this Hollywood has their rights, but come on. Come on.
No, but slowly but surely, remember.
And you know how much they spent to push Star Wars in China? They
Mhm.
literally had stormtroopers walking in the Great Wall.
and
and-
fucking in Changi Airport, they had fucking an X-wing and a TIE fighter.
Right?
Diba? Wala, hindi kinagat. Baba, their sales in China is
Because
Oh,
you gotta put Asian actors.
yeah. Entire,
But the worst is if you watch Transformers. I will call you Hollywood out because Transformers,
Wala.
they had Asian
Sino?
actors. They had like the girl, that lady. But the way they portrayed Asia there or China
Oh yeah, the
was
scientists.
totally
Yeah.
not factually correct. You cannot drive down from Shanghai to Hong Kong within an hour. Right?
No.
Literally can't do that.
No way. That's
Right? Where the
fucking
Dinobus landed. I mean, they pandered to the Chinese community, but we're not stupid.
Uh-huh.
Right? But the way you portrayed it was like we don't understand the geography of
Yeah.
where we are. Right?
Did they an hour from fucking Beijing to Hong Kong?
I think it was like Shanghai to Hong Kong or wherever, but it was like,
Shanghai.
right? So I would call,
Shanghai's in
yeah.
more sa loob, but
Well, Shanghai is in the coast, but it's still very far, right?
Still
If you
very
took the
far.
bullet train, it will still take you at least 4 hours or 5 hours, right? But I will
the
call
ferry
Hollywood.
would take you.
I will
an
call
hour
Hollywood
30.
out that way. If you want the Chinese or the Asians to watch your films, right, that are, you know, like using Asian,
Uh-huh.
Asian, like settings and stuff like that, be more realistic. We're not stupid. We're smart people,
Yeah.
right? So don't
We're the
demean
ones who
us.
fucking invented your cameras and shit. to
Don't
begin
demean us
with.
by giving us like stupid geographical,
Giant Grade 1, I heard a lot of people would fucking.
I refuse to watch films like that.
I would give it a shot because it's Matt. I'm a Matt fan.
I mean, I like Matt Damon. I think he
Yeah.
did a great.
Plus,
The
I like
Bond,
the chick. There's
the
a hot,
Bourne.
there's a cute Asian chick in it.
Yeah, obviously.
I wouldn't watch it in the cinema,
yeah,
but I'd
but
watch a DVD.
They used, but yeah.
Cool down, cool down. Yeah, I get you, I get you.
I think the last great Asian and Caucasian film that I watched, I forgot the name of it, but it was awesome.
Let me know.
It was Shokusugi. It was like a samurai, and then it was a Spanish guy, and they were
Shokusugi is the title?
No, Shokusugi was an actor.
After.
He's a big famous guy in Japan for samurai films,
Okay.
right? And with him was this guy, I forgot the actor, but he was a Spanish conquistador, and they were fighting against certain people. So it was a
Knives
samurai.
versus
Yeah, so
conquistador.
but it was very balanced. It was very balanced, and I thought that was perfect, right?
What's the title of this flick?
God, I don't remember. I love that film. That was a very good film.
I'll look that up.
That was a very good film, right?
When you were talking about it, I remembered 47 Ronin, which is another Japanese with a white guy.
with
in
Keanu Reeves.
it. Yeah.
But we will adopt Keanu Reeves because he's awesome. Keanu Reeves, he knows his shit,
Oh,
and
fuck yeah.
he gives a damn.
He gives, and he's got a big heart.
He's got a big.
And you see it. Please tell me you've seen John Wick.
No, I haven't. I watched John Wick 1. I haven't watched
Okay,
John Wick 2.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, Keanu Reeves.
Watch it.
Respect Keanu Reeves.
Watch John Wick 2. It is so amazing.
Yeah, I would love to watch that. I just haven't had the time.
Yeah. But get it on DVD or watch it on streaming, whatever the fuck. But what I noticed when I was watching John Wick was that he's tied up to a Hong Kong company. So the release was,
Because we know what we're good at in
Exactly.
Asia, so use us properly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
That's an example.
don't
of that.
water down the script because you're worried about your American or okay, not, but don't
Western.
worry on Western viewership, because at the end of the day,
A good story. is
a lot
good
of
story.
stories are good because they're good. It doesn't have to be watered down. I mean, do you guys? I don't know if you remember the last the one of the Oscar-winning films a few years ago, The Departed.
Uh-huh.
Right? That was based on a Hong Kong film,
Yep,
The Infernal
it was.
Affairs,
Yep.
and that was a very, very good film.
Got a lot of nominations.
Nomination.
Nanalo ba siya?
It won
Won
best
some.
film.
Yeah. Was it?
Right? It won best film. It didn't win an Academy Awards for Leonardo,
Yeah, I think
Right?
they deserve it then.
right? But it's a very, very good film. If you watch the Asian version, Infernal Affairs, very
Okay,
good
Old Boy.
storyline.
Have you seen Old Boy?
Old Boy, yes, it was a very
Fuck
good film
yeah,
as well
Korean.
in Asia.
That's Korean.
Because we are creative, so why water it down just to fit your palate?
Maybe because it's also their market. Like for example, something like The Ring.
Yeah.
If you made
Well, yeah, I
if
guess
it's
suppose.
the Japanese. If people wanted to watch the Japanese version, they'd watch the Japanese version.
That's true. That's
But
true.
then they could watch the American version. Kasi hindi nila magets yung bahay nila tatanggal
Yeah,
ng
yeah.
chinelas. You know what I mean? They will get that.
That's true.
And then
I'm very big on authenticity, kasi.
me too. So
Right.
am I. So am I,
Right.
man.
Yeah, authenticity. Which is why I thought Logan was a very good film. I mean, it was authentic to his character,
Fuck yeah.
right? I was
Not as authentic as if you're a comic. Cause I'm a Logan purist, man.
Yeah.
I mean like a Wolverine.
I watched. I mean, I
purist.
read the comics for Logan. It was fantastic.
Yeah, which one did you read? The Old Man.
Yeah, Old Man, of course.
Diba?
That was good. It was good.
That was good. Close enough.
Close
I'd
enough.
say the whole road trip thing. You can't do the Pim Valley and the whatnots.
Yeah, it was a very good film.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that this makes Hollywood rethink that, okay, maybe we don't have to follow time, especially for Fox, right? That we don't have to follow timeline. We just have to
Yeah.
follow a good storyline,
Make a fucking
and
good
then
story,
they
compelling
would be happy
characters.
with that. I think
Yeah.
financially, they will be much happier,
Yeah.
right? And you can still do your branding. You can still do your, your toys and everything.
Yeah.
But at
Pero
least you
parang
get the
ang hirap ata
hardcore.
gumawa ng Professor X figure na matanda. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For this one, I don't know about that, but maybe.
What's a good? The X-Men is only Wolverine that can stand alone, diba? And then there's Deadpool because he's not an X-Men.
Oh, he's not even
Right.
X-Men. Well, that's a good question.
Who can stand alone in the X-Men outside Wolverine?
Wala na. Parang hirap na. Well, X-23, I'm a big fan. So, but then she's like new. Ano na.
Well, the story there is they might do an Alpha Flight.
Hopefully, we'll see.
But I hope Alpha Flight's not part of the. Well, is it part of the X-Men series? I think it is.
It
Right?
is.
So
Technically,
then
it's theirs.
it's Fox again.
Technically, it's theirs because Wolverine is Alpha Flight.
Yeah.
Alpha Flight, to those who don't know, is the Canadian X-Men, and that's another story.
Right.
Speaking of stories, bro, let's close with this. We've been alive a bit longer than most.
Still
Not
alive,
more
still
than
alive,
that,
still alive, still alive.
What's a little message you could give to the geek and geekettes who are listening out there um, about pursuing their passion and direction and finding their tribe and their place in life?
Well, I think in the world right now, we've never been. It's never been easier to find people who you can get along with in
Right.
terms of, like personality or interest.
Mm.
So, but I think that one of the great things about the geek philosophy or the Greek industry or whatever you call it, right, is that it's
Pop
driven
culture industry.
Greek pop culture.
Yep, yep.
It's really driven the world, right? In technology, in philosophy, right? So keep at it. I mean, you live in your own. You go into your fantasies when you have free time, but apply some of it in the real life. I mean,
Mhm.
people. If you guys are Star Trek geeks, a lot of the Star Trek things are coming to life, right?
That's true.
Like the cell phones,
Cell phone.
and
Can
everything,
you
right?
imagine? It used to be a
Right?
joke,
Yeah.
but really,
Right.
your phone can be that fucking small.
Right, like with like robots. I mean, our technology now, we're not yet at Gundam level or whatever, but we're getting there, right? But it's a lot of geek like mangas or comics or anime. They deal with what happens if this thing gets created,
Yeah.
and that helps. That really helps. I mean,
Uh-huh.
like look at the way robotics is seen in the West and in the East. It's very different.
very
It's totally different. In the East, in the Eastern culture, robots are seen as more human,
Mm.
but in the West, they're not.
Shit, they have like
They're
pets
afraid
and
of
shit.
they're afraid
They
of
have robotic pets and
artificial
shit.
intelligence, like the Terminator,
Uh-huh.
right? But but you see robots in the East, they're not seen as that way. They're seen as helping people.
Uh-huh.
They're seen as an extension of the human exoskeleton.
Mhm.
But in the West, they're seen as Terminator. They're seen as a computer in that what's that TV show? I like that TV show a lot.
Westworld.
And Westworld, and there's another one, the artificial intelligence with like it's like
Humans.
what's that? The guy from Jesus.
The guy kaya ko yan. Sige. Hitman.
Oh, what is that TV show? I have it in the tip of my tongue.
Jim Caviezel ba to?
Yeah.
Yeah. Person of interest.
Person of interest,
I
right?
read your mind,
Right. So that's like it's
motherfucker.
like they see artificial intelligence like the big brother type, but it's very
But it
very
can
different.
be kasi.
It is right,
It
but
can
that's
be.
but you gotta see it as But why was it thought of it? Why was that thought of in the West but not thought of in the East?
Iba yung mindset.
Iba yung mindset, and
That's-
a lot
that's
of
a good point.
a lot of article. There's a recent article, if you there that was just written, I think, about how the Western people think and the Eastern people think. I mean, obviously, it's very different. We're very collective in the East, but in the West, we're very individualistic, right? Like,
That's true.
I am my own person in the West. In the East, I am part of a community, and there are good and bad things about it. And if you look at comics, you look at anime, you look at geek stuff, and pop culture, it reflects that, right? And you gotta find the right balance,
Mm.
right? So you gotta pursue that to the certain. If you apply that in the real life,
I guess living in the Philippines, we're kind of lucky because we get a lot of Western influence.
Yeah, we get a
and we're definitely
in the East, yeah.
diba? But so we get a better balance, I think. And sa ating mga Pinoy, a lot of us speak English very well.
Mhm.
I mean, the normal person can understand
Yeah.
at the very least,
Yeah.
and speak back to you. Unlike when you're in another like China or Hong Kong, medyo. Although Hong Kong's catching up,
Yeah.
the normal dude on the street can talk English back. More or
They're
less.
getting there. I mean,
Yeah.
but a lot of people also learning Japanese, Korean, Chinese as well. So it's a very different world we live in, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Very diverse. Yeah, and with that, we end with this. Thank you so much, Howard, for coming down.
Thank you
my
very
man.
much for
Cheers
inviting
to
me.
that.
Cheers
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah,
I hope you guys enjoy our podcast.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming up with talking about existential and nostalgic stuff with us here on Tambay TV. You can check us out on the Taglish Network on YouTube. Tambay TV is the show. This is the podcast that I'm doing. Like us on Facebook. Howard, where can they find you? Have a Twitter handle that people can bother you for? Oh, wag na.
I have a Twitter handle. You can look at me up at Hoko27.
Hoko27. Message it. Kung kailangan nyo ng reservations in advance.
Look us
If you
up
guys
in
wanna-
Facebook, Craft BGC.
Yeah, Craft BGC is also on Facebook. Add them up.
If you're a whiskey
Amazing.
fan, you can look at Lit Bar. We do Japanese whiskey
Where's
because
this bar?
in Serendra we have a Japanese whiskey bar. So
Nice.
we have a lot of I'm a big Japan fan, so
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I love
yeah.
what everything from
Ano
Japan.
meron kayo na masarap ngayon?
Well,
Hibiki.
we have Hibiki, Mars, everything.
Masake.
Everything you guys want in
Solid,
Japanese whiskey, we have it.
Shit. So,
Right.
Lit is the name of the place?
Lit. Get lit
Kids
at
are
Lit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sino kasama mo doon? Kayo nila Howard, nila...
Marco and those guys.
I
A
don't
different
know.
group, different
Oh,
group.
different
yeah.
group. Okay. Well, cheers to that. Thank you so much. And with that, we'll be wrapping it for this week. But check out Logan if you haven't. Iron Fist, by the time I'll be posting this, should be out.
All right.
We had Sunny Season last time, who was part of the stunt group in that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he had nice stories, but check out that episode.
I want to be like one of those stunt films, right? Like just be
I
like
told
a-
him, dude,
yeah.
if you need a fucking Asian looking
Someone gets hit,
motherfucker,
but-
yeah, I'll be that guy. I'll be the guy that Iron Fist hits, pare. Speaking of hit, we're gonna hit this one more time and let this go. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Alpha Hard on Twitter. Add me up, follow, whatever the fuck. Good. Adios for now. Goodbye. That's it. Dude.
Cheers, man.
Of course, right.
Thanks, man. I mean,